How do you renovate a rental property to minimize your repairs so you're not paying through the nose? That's today's video. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, I'm Clayton Morris. I'm the founder of Morris Invest. I'm a turnkey real estate provider, and I've been a long-time investor for a number of years, and I own many rental properties. The key to a successful renovation on a rental property is to minimize the repairs down the road, because we're all about cash flow. So this whole channel is devoted to helping you create passive income and cash flow, right? That's why we do what we do here. And so if we have that cash flow coming in the form of rental income, do we want to be paying it out to keep fixing stuff? Windows, doors, refrigerators, God knows what else. Of course not. So how do we minimize our repairs when we're doing our rehab? Let's say you identify a great property. You find a great 3-bedroom, 1-bath house, and you're ready to start the renovation. It's going to cost you maybe $15,000, $20,000 to do the rehab. Well, what do you do in the property to make sure? Well, here's what we do on our properties. Let me show you a total disaster of a house that we bought recently. This is a typical one of our properties. You can see here how much of a disaster it was on the inside, right? We had ceilings falling in, we had terrible flooring, everything. It was a total gut rehab in the property. So when I'm starting with a blank canvas like that, what we like to do in all of our properties is simple. We want to make sure that the main mechanicals, the main systems of the house are fully rock solid. Why? Because when you take care of the roof, the windows, the plumbing, the electrical, the furnace, and the water heater, then you've got a rock solid house for 15 years minimum, right? 10 to 15 years depending on the life of the water heater, but you really are not going to have repairs to worry about for like 15 years if you really do that type of a rehab. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's go through them point by point. On the roof, so when I buy a rental property, if I buy a property and there's another 25 years or 20 years of life left in the roof, I'm not going to touch it. That would be a waste of money. But if it needs a new roof, I'm going to put a new roof on the property or an overlay. So in certain states, you're allowed to put a certain number of layers of shingles before you have to completely rip them off and put on a whole new roof. So typically it's about 3 layers you're allowed to put on. So if it needs a new overlay, you put that on. New roof, done. What about windows? If the windows are in great shape, there's no need to replace them if they're working and they're fine. They keep the insulation of the property. But if you're putting new windows in, I always put in Pella windows or sometimes Anderson windows in my rental properties. They're the white vinyl windows, and they keep it nice and warm and insulated. That way your tenants love it because it's keeping their costs down on their heating bill and their air conditioning bill during the summer. Windows, roof. Next is the electrical. I want to make sure, this is the stuff that's not terribly sexy when you're putting together a property, right? Because it's the stuff behind the walls that you don't get to see. But it's where you want to spend your most money. So if you've got that old knob and tube wiring, you know what it looks like, right? If you've ever seen an old house, those old knob and tube wires. And we upgrade to a 200 amp electrical panel on all of our properties. So running all new electric through the house and making sure that it's up to code. And that way you don't have to worry about that house for 40 years when it comes to the electrical panel, especially if you're putting in a 200 amp electrical panel. Sort of future proofs your house. And it's not that much more expensive than putting in a 100 amp electrical panel. I would go 200 amps all day long, and that's what I do. The next thing that we would do in our property, if we have to pull out all the old plumbing, so if I'm pulling out all the old galvanized pipe, I'm going to rip all of that out. If there's that PVC pipe, the white piping, if that's in there as well, typically we're going to pull that out of the property. And I'm going to put in all new, brand new PEX plumbing, P-E-X. Why? Again, I can snake this through the rafters. It lets me maneuver it around the house very easily and nicely. And if it gets too cold, it can swell up like a balloon without bursting. That's another benefit of PEX plumbing. You always hear about people in the winter, if maybe the power is out or they're not living there and the house is vacant, the pipes will burst. Well, it will still happen with PEX plumbing, but not as likely. It's able to withstand a lot more of that give and take. So we'll put in all new plumbing in the property as well. So roof, windows, plumbing, electrical. Then I'm going to put in a new water heater. which are fairly inexpensive, but putting in a new water heater ensures that I'm going to get 10 years of life out of it on a manufacturer's warranty, and typically, they last for 10 to 15 years, depending on the water heater and how much use you're getting from it. It's actually when you don't use the water heater that you end up having more problems with it. If a tenant is living in the property, then your water heater can last a lifetime. It can really last a long time. Furnace. We're also putting in a new furnace in the house. Of course, that's one of those big mechanicals that you want to make sure you take care of. And again, 10, 15 years of life on a furnace. That's why most of them have a 10-year manufacturer's warranty on them. When you go into the 11th and 12th year, then of course you're getting towards its end of life. So if you get all of those mechanicals taken care of in the house, the roof, the windows, the electrical, the plumbing, the furnace, and the water heater, then you've got a rock solid house for many, many years to come where you shouldn't have to worry about repairs. That's why I do this on all of my homes, because I don't want to worry about having big repairs down the line, not for many, many years. And by the time I get to those repairs, the property will have paid for itself like 3 times over by the time I actually get to some of those major system repairs. Now, you're always going to have like minimal repairs, right? On a tenant turnover, if a tenant moves out, you're probably going to get in there and steam clean the carpets or replace the carpets for a few $100s. Paint, some paint touch up, and maybe some drywall patching. But for the most part, you're not going to have much more to worry about when a tenant leaves the property. So those sorts of things we always expect we're going to have a little paint touch up here and there, cleaning out the property, etc. But those main systems, those main mechanicals, those are still rock solid for many, many years to come. So that's the way that we do it. I'd love to hear your comments in the thread below. We've got some great videos here on the channel. So we've got some playlists in the description below on this video. You can click on some of our other playlists. We cover some of the news that's happening in the real estate world, like what do the markets look like? What are some of the best rental markets to be investing in right now? What have the highest vacancy rates out there? So some great real estate news. We have a playlist for that as well. And don't forget, you can subscribe. Just go over here and subscribe to our channel. Click on the big red subscribe button, and we see you back here with more videos every week. We've got them. Thanks, everyone. Go out there, take action, and become a real estate investor.